The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC. And if you would like to see a live recording of The Angry Chicken, come on out to CreateCon in Orlando this July. Tickets and info over at createconvention.net.
Hey everyone! Get in here! Ready for action! I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is The Angry Chicken.
Welcome back, everyone. This is The Angry Chicken. I'm Garrett Weinzerl, and I'm sitting here today with Willie Dills Gregory and Miss Jocelyn Moffat. Welcome back, guys.
Yo.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. And we are also joined today by a very special guest. You may know him from kicking ass at DreamHack Austin a few weeks ago, or you may know him as one of the pro players for Gale Force Esports. Terrence, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining, man. We've been wanting to get you on the show for a while now, but you're making us all feel old. You were still in college and you had finals.
Yeah. Happy to be done with that.
That's actually pretty impressive though to be juggling college and the esports stuff. I know a lot of people actually just stop doing school so they can do the gaming thing. So kudos to you, man, for doing all of it. That's pretty good.
It was really hard the weekend after I got back because I missed a couple of days. And there was papers and finals due, so there was so much to do.
You're like, sorry, teacher, I had to go play a card game on the internet.
You didn't just walk in and say, do you even know who I am? Do you know how well I did? Just pass me, please. I'm totally an athlete right now. That's how this works, right?
You know, Locke? Yeah, everyone else was playing Zoo. Sorry.
It's got to be a pretty unique explanation as to why you had to miss class, right?
Yeah. Some of the teachers knew about it. The other ones, I was just like, oh, I had to go for something for work. So
yeah, just say that.
Yeah.
Don't even explain it. Yeah. Save yourself some time.
Oh man, yeah, that was not. I could barely handle raiding in World of Warcraft and going to college. I can't imagine if I was doing this type of stuff like full time, professionally.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so we're gonna have an interview here with you right here at the top of the show. But before we do that, we do have an announcement for our listeners out there. Chances are, if you were listening to this show, I would assume you like it, and if you like it, you probably want us to win an award, don't you? Okay, cool. Because we are up for a podcast award over at thepodcastawards.com right now. You can vote for The Angry Chicken. We are nominated underneath Games and Hobbies. And as I said on Twitter yesterday, we'd really like a trophy so our parents stop thinking we're crazy. So
that is literally the number one reason.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. Thank you.
They actually, I don't think they even give you a trophy, do they? Do they give you anything?
Yeah, you get a trophy.
Yeah, you get this really cool like, glass pyramid thing.
It's
like podcast award.
I guess Scott has them all because the instance has won a bunch of times, and I don't have anything. What the hell, man?
I certainly hope you can get multiples, because otherwise I will fight you two to the death.
you can have it. It's cool.
I will. Anyways,
it's not cool. I'm taking you down.
Yeah. Again, it's over at thepodcastawards.com. You can actually vote once a day until June 12th. That's when voting ends. It started up yesterday. So everyone within the sound of my voice, I would really appreciate it. All three of us would, as a matter of fact, if you would go over to podcastawards.com, vote for TAC once a day up until June 12th. And help us win, because that would be awesome. And we would have to change the name of the show to The Happy Chicken. We probably won't actually do that, but
no, let's not do that.
Yeah, it sounded good in my head.
I just want to take down D&D is for nerds. I don't know who those guys are, but they don't deserve any awards. Screw those guys.
I'm going to pick a fight with a podcast at random.
One of the other podcasts in the category. Screw those guys.
Yep. Throwing darts. What'd it land on? Okay, my beef is with you now. So anyway, back to you, Terrence. Sorry that you guessed it on an episode where we also just got nominated for something we need listeners to go vote for. But So again, recap. You play for Gale Force Esports. You recently
Yeah.
placed second at DreamHack Austin, which was a massive open tournament that Dills you played in. We actually talked quite a bit about it 2 weeks ago. So I guess kind of rewind. What's your gaming resume? Is Hearthstone the first game that you have played professionally?
Yeah, Hearthstone would be like the first game I played other like card games, but no other video games like at a competitive level.
Okay.
Pretty much, League of Legends is what kind of got me into it. I played some WoW in high school, but League of Legends is what got me into like the Twitch and the esports side. And I was a big like TSM fanboy for a bit, and pretty much just once Hearthstone came out, I really got into that because of the card games.
No, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
well, what do you think it was about Hearthstone that actually drew you to this game in particular?
I think it was because I had the background in card games, and it was pretty easy to get into. Like the second I got my beta key, I just kind of played Arena for a month, didn't have to spend that much money. Got a couple of competitive decks, and then like once I started being able to like make a little bit of money in like the small tournaments, I decided to just buy a couple packs so I could play all the competitive decks I wanted, and then ever since beta, I haven't really had to buy cards to be able to like stick into the game. So I kind of like the like compared to physical card games where it's expensive to stay in it. I like where it's Hearthstone's really cheap compared to physical card
Yeah.
games, despite
I think
what
a lot of
other
people don't
might
understand.
think. Yeah,
A lot of people don't understand the difference between, say, trying to build a competitive Magic deck and a competitive Hearthstone deck in terms of money. It's insane how much you have to
Yeah.
actually spend.
That was something we talked about a lot on this show, like in the very early days. Because
Yeah.
Dills, you and I had both played Magic, and we were blown away by the sheer affordability of keeping in this game and keeping current with it.
yeah.
So obviously, it's your first time on this show, so we have to ask you, what's your favorite class to play?
My favorite class to play is Rogue. The first time I got Legend, which was I think my third month playing, is when Miracle Rogue first became popular, and the first time I tried the deck, I streaked straight from 4 to Legend with like 2 losses, and then I just played nothing but Miracle Rogue since then, until Auctioneer and Leroy had to go.
Oh man!
So are
yeah.
you really excited that it's back in the meta now?
Yeah, it's so much fun to play.
Nice.
Yeah, it's actually I'm trying to figure out what deck I think might be better than Miracle Rogue right now, and I can't really figure it out. Every time I switch to something else, and then I switch back, I'm just like, oh yeah, I can just stealth stuff, and then I can just kill you with Leroy. Like this seems like the best thing I can do.
Yeah, when you get the good conceal hands, there's nothing that most decks can do.
Yeah, just Lotheb going away, man. That's all it took. Like I think those cards, like yeah, they nerfed it. Gadget Zan would be so broken at 5 right now.
Yeah.
Like it would be insanely broken at 5. But I was thinking about this, and I was like, these are balanced now. These are where they're supposed to be. Leroy should be 5. Gadget Zan should be 6. How were we ever losing with Miracle Rogue before when they were 5 and 4? I don't understand. And I guess actually we weren't. Neither you weren't
Yeah.
losing.
Not really. No, I bet those 2 losses. Well, your Gadget Zan Auctioneer was probably card 30 and 29
Yeah,
in
it's
your
just the
deck.
bottom of the deck.
29, 30, just
Yeah.
that's all you lose now with the deck when you just don't draw your Auctioneers.
Pretty much.
Every time you draw it now, you pretty much win.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting like aggro shaman down or something.
I am so jealous of you guys that are actually good at playing Rogue.
Oh, I'm
Just do it. You gotta just do it. I'm telling you. It's not that hard. Everyone talks about how hard it is, but it's like all you do is just cast spells real fast and see what happens.
I seriously though, I feel like there's just like Rogue players and then like everybody else.
It's never been my jam either, to be completely honest. Just never took to it, sadly.
You guys should give it a shot. Give it a go. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your like overall? We've had a good amount of time now to kind of sit on it and let it settle. What's your overall thoughts on Standard and Old Gods, Terrence?
I really like it. Like when the cards first got revealed, I underestimated a lot of cards. Like there's a lot of cards I just thought was weak and just wouldn't see 2 play or was too slow. But like despite me losing DreamHack on turn 5, the meta did kind of slow down. And like there's still aggro decks, of course, there always will be, but I really like it, and I like how much change there is and how things aren't as figured out yet. So I kind of like the challenge of trying to figure out the decks.
Yeah, it seems to me like there's a lot of diversity on the ladder right now, and in tournaments.
Yeah.
That tournament in particular was interesting because that was, and I talked about this. I signed up for DreamHack, a long time before we knew when Standard was going to hit, and I thought, okay, if Standard actually comes before DreamHack, that's going to be really crazy, and it might actually be my advantage as like a non-pro player because no one's really going to know, what's going on. So everything's going to be kind of up in the air. But were you kind of thinking the same thing? Were you concerned about when the Standard would come out before a big tournament like DreamHack?
Yeah, I wanted there to be some time, like having it come out like the weekend before would have been really bad because then no one knows what's going on.
Sure.
But at least we had a fair bit
like
of
a week
time
and a
to
half,
work
right?
A week and a half, yeah. That extra couple of days makes a big difference.
It does.
Yeah. And I was on break that weekend, so it was so good. I just played nothing but Old Gods the week that it came out.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm jealous.
And you brought some pretty interesting decks too. You were, I think, the only one to bring Reno Lock.
Peyton brought it too.
Oh, okay, yeah. But so that's two guys out of
Out of
a
everyone.
170 person field or something like that. Why Reno Lock, not Zoo?
Reno Lock, there was a period where Crane had did really well with Patron. So on ladder it was nothing but like Patron, and I was playing Reno Lock to try and counter them, and I had like a 75% win rate. So I was like, wow, I should start testing this in the in my last year standing lineup while playtesting, and it really worked out. It just countered all the control decks really well. Like it doesn't lose to Control Warrior, rarely loses to Priest, and it beats like the Patron, and sometimes that ends off Paladin deck. But it was just a really good deck after noticing how well it did on ladder.
Yeah, it
Do you
seems
find
like
that-
one of those decks that can beat anything, right?
Yeah, as long as you draw like the early cards.
The proper order, yeah.
Yeah, and draw Reno in 6.
Yeah, sure. That's pretty important sometimes too.
Kind of good.
Do you find that you make different decisions based on like the tournament meta versus a ladder meta, or do you take what you've been using on ladder and bring it to tournaments?
Yeah, I think you have to make adjustments for ladder as compared to tournaments. Like my Reno Lock deck, I didn't play Demon Wrath because I think in last year's standing you have to hard counter if you're queuing a deck that's like 55%, like that's barely worth the edge that you get.
Sure.
So I think if you're going to be countering a deck in last year's standing, you have to go all in countering it. And I didn't want Demon Wrath against, like, sure, it makes my overall matchups better, but it's not that great against the control deck. So I didn't end up playing Demon Wrath. So stuff like that I think is important.
Were you, how aware were you? I'm very curious because when I went in, I was not expecting the actual decks that I ended up going up against. But how aware were you of what everyone else was doing? And as being someone who's on a pro team, I'm sure you're a little bit more plugged in than I am. But things like just how often Doomsayer was going to be played in every deck, or that Tempo Warrior was going to be so popular, things like that. How aware were you going into that tournament?
I wasn't that aware of Tempo Warrior. I know that Board Control had did well with it, but I was testing Patron at the time, and it has a slightly better Zoo matchup. And like I said, like having hard counters is pretty important in last year's standing. So I wasn't that aware of Tempo Warrior, but the Doomsayer, I just noticed like every time you play Doomsayer on 2, it just goes off, and there's not that many sticky cards. Like you're not punished by Nerubian Egg anymore or anything
Haunted
like
Creepers
that.
and Nerubians, yeah.
Yeah, Doomsayer is like probably the strongest 2-drop right now.
Yeah, I agree. Once we lost the OP 2-drops, Doomsayer just became like the best option. Right?
Yeah.
Pretty.
Yeah, what was that?
Gun just went off outside my house. Holy crap!
Well, you
this
do-
Texas weather.
Welcome
Don't
to
worry about that.
Texas.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's storming here too, so who knows where the thunder is coming from.
I think a lightning bolt just hit my car outside. I might need to go check.
We'll wait. We'll just sit here in silence until you come back. Guys, it's a
That's
crater.
cool.
Oh, no.
I'll let it happen. It's fine.
Real quick, talking about some of the things that surprised you and whatnot, you also mentioned just on Old Gods and Standard overall, there were some cards you really kind of undervalued.
Yeah.
What were some of those cards that just completely surprised you?
I think Bloodhoof Brave was the biggest. I was just like, oh, a 2/6. That's like okay, I guess. But like it going to a 5/5 a lot is really big. I thought Blood to Ichor would be a one of maybe, and that card was really, really good. I didn't like any of the forbidden cards. Like they're all pretty mediocre when you're looking at it through like the mindset of the GVG and Axamus cards.
Yeah.
But once you get into the mindset of the like just playing Standard and the Old Gods for a while, all the cards that seem really mediocre when looking at it before are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot on the show, that we have to adjust our power levels now
Our
because
expectations,
we're
yeah.
so used to like shielded minibot and things and muster for battle, and now we're like, oh, okay, those aren't cards anymore that we have to compare these to. So we have to look at them as, and the other thing too, in a tournament meta, something like Forbidden Healing has a place just because people are going to play Freeze Mage, right? So it's a important card to counter certain things.
And Ritual plus Councilman plus, for the
Okay,
love of
Dark
God,
Knight
Yeah.
Councilman.
Alchemist, apparently? Like, no, I didn't see that coming.
I think that was under the radar for everybody, Darkshire Councilman.
Yeah.
Like, just compared to Imp Gang boss, it seems pretty lackluster, but once you actually play it, it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. So, so getting away from DreamHack a little bit, talking more about your history as a pro player. You kind of became a household name for us Hearthstone fans because of DreamHack. But up before then, what was kind of your history with tournaments? How long have you been playing in the Hearthstone pro scene?
So I got into tournaments back during the Mana Grind days, and that was kind of my favorite tournament. Like, there's not that much Swiss in the Hearthstone at all, so having Swiss tournaments every week was really cool. Coming from other card games, like I have in 13 years plus of playing card games, I've played like probably single elimination tournaments compared to Hearthstone, where it's a single elimination tournament every day. And besides like the open tournaments, I played as many of those as I could. The other kind of big tournament that I qualified for was the second TESPA tournament, the collegiate open thing that ended up at PAX Prime.
Right.
And I tried to qualify for like the BlizzCon last qualifiers and stuff like that. When you had to get top 16, I was one off once, and a bunch of like 20s and 50s and stuff like that. Back when it wasn't just top 100, you had to actually get top 16. And then the one after that, I did get the points to play in the last chance qualifiers, but I didn't do that well in that. But yeah, and DreamHack Summer last year, but I O2 dropped that one. So DreamHack Austin was definitely a big step up from there.
About to say.
So what are your you mentioned that you like Swiss. What do you think about last year standing to say Conquest? We talked about this on the last show, but I'd love to hear your take on that. Do you prefer one over the other?
I do prefer Last Hero Standing. I think it has a lot to do with Last Hero Standing being the first format that we use, and I just noticed I do better in Last Hero Standing compared to Conquest. The Rat in his rant recently had mentioned that like people do down talk Conquest, and there is still the same people doing well in Conquest, but like I totally see his view on it. I just prefer Last Hero Standing and just noticed I do better, and I think it's a little harder to figure out. So I like that challenge.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to preparation means more because you are having to directly counter. If you had your preference, though, if you were to create your own tournament, what format do you think you might use? Like just wild, whatever you want to do. Just what would you come up with?
It would be a Swiss, of course, where like most X2s, if not all, make it. Like I think just losing one and being out kind of sucks. Like I'm just really used to like 9-round, 10-round, 11-round tournaments.
So DreamHack Austin.
Yeah, pretty much. Just DreamHack
Seem to
Austin
do
all
well,
the
yeah.
time.
Just over and over and over.
Just for
No,
Angry.
I like that though, because you do
Yeah.
eliminate some of the variants of a card game, which
Yeah.
you say you have a lot of experience with card games, so you understand. Sometimes you just don't draw that good, and
Yeah.
it's not really a better player winning. It's just I drew in the right order and you didn't. So you take out some of that when you have a deeper tournament.
Yeah, and all best of 5, none of the best of 3 stuff. And like Conquest and Last Year's Standing both do have their flaws, but like until something new comes up, maybe I'd probably just say Last Year's Standing for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I thought DreamHack Austin had the best format of a tournament that I'd been in at that point. And I've played a bunch of these what I think you're talking about, which is these kind of open online tournaments.
Yeah.
And they're always a little funky, but I get why, because they're just trying to get a tournament done in a day.
Yeah.
So they can't
Really
really
hard.
go that hard with the format. Yeah. So it's basically like, best 2 out of 3, single elimination. Let's get this over in a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
And those kind of have to exist because it gives you something to actually do day in and day out in Hearthstone. But these types of tournaments, these DreamHacks, these big events where people show up, I want them to be deep run tournaments. And 3 losses is where you actually were eliminated at DreamHack. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I'm going to an open tournament, it doesn't happen, especially in a LAN environment. Your average Hearthstone player doesn't get to have that experience. I want to play. I don't want to lose my first round and be out because it's single elimination, or even slightly better than that is go to losers round and possibly only play 2 rounds and leave. And that's why I think Swiss is such a great thing for your average player who just wants a competitive experience. And it's also, if you're trying to get better at tournaments, if you can find the most tournaments possible that have a Swiss format, you're going to get the most practice.
Yeah. I think double elimination, which is the other format, is strictly worse than Swiss for everyone that doesn't go through in the winners bracket. For streaming purposes, it kind of makes sense because with Swiss there's more downtime.
Yeah.
With double elimination, you can kind of just jump right into the next match. So I kind of see why they do it for prelims. But for everyone that goes into the losers bracket, it's just as much time in Swiss because there's the extra losers bracket rounds.
Yeah.
And going into the first losers bracket round just feels terrible because you have to play like 5 or 6 more rounds than most other people. Like, I don't know. It's like 10 rounds or something if you lose the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bad losing the first round in double elimination.
Yeah. The thing is that you can still find a way to make Swiss work as far as the streaming is concerned if you stagger matches a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did notice there were a few rounds at DreamHack Austin where we were waiting a long time because some people just hadn't finished. When I was playing, I think my first match, I'm sitting to my left is 6-0, and he was playing somebody and he was done within like 5 minutes or something. It seemed crazy. I'm still playing my second game of my first match and they're already done. And I'm in some like going to fatigue control matchup or whatever. So, I mean, it does happen, but it's really like, is that such a problem that we're going to make a tournament crappier just so we can have constant matches going? I think it's the wrong way to do things. It's better to just make a good tournament, and worry about the broadcasting later.
It's pretty much deciding if you want to make the tournament for the players or for the audience.
Sure, for Twitch, yeah. I think for the players. Let's go for the players.
Speaking of the players, we actually had a really good question from chat that I'm going to throw in here. Tom TP3 asks what your thoughts are on the volatility of the Legend ranking system, because you talked about how, qualifying for all these big tournaments, obviously you have to gather points which come from tournaments or Legend rankings. And apparently Teist was rank 4 Legend and lost to someone at rank 100 and then dropped all the way down to 78. So just in that one game, the volatility is kind of crazy for Hearthstone. So what are your thoughts on kind of the way the Hearthstone ladder works and Legend rank specifically?
I don't like it too much. You pretty much have to be on an upswing to do well and like get those top 100, top 10 ranks. Like the variance kind of dies down, but the importance of one game as it gets closer to the end of the season is just really, really volatile. Everyone's like really close together MMR wise, so you could just lose one and then have to win like 2 or 3 more just to get back there. And you don't even get all the way back sometimes. You're still a little far behind after winning 2 to get back to close to where you just were. Like going from 4 to 70, he probably has to win a lot to get back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you if you could tell Blizzard what you would want, what do you think you might tell them? Is there an idea you have for the ladder system that you think would work better?
I'm really not sure. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think just something where just singular games aren't that volatile, and it's kind of just like, from what Ixar has said, the people that have the higher win percentages and are doing better are consistently doing well. So I think something that just kind of like visually shows that a little bit better instead of it just being so volatile.
Yeah, I've heard that echoed
And
from a lot of players where they just would like to see where they actually are compared to the person above them and below them and things like that, so they can make more informed decisions. Because I was talking to Sixo actually at DreamHack when he was sitting next to me. He was rank 1 all the way up until like the last like 5 minutes or something of that particular season, and then somebody snuck above him, and he didn't know, like, should I be playing? Should I be queuing? What should I be doing right now? Yeah. And he actually lost rank 1 at the very end. And, he was just like, all I want to do is I just want to know, like, is someone right behind me, or am I safe? Like, I'd rather see that visually somewhere.
Yeah, that really starts... Sorry,
another thing that kind of sucks about that is at the last minute, people can queue and then rope if they're going to lose. Yeah. So there's just no punishment if you just queue in the last 5-10 minutes. If you're going to win, you play out the game as fast as you can. If you're going to lose, you just rope every turn. So the people that are at those like high ranks can queue with no risk, pretty much.
That's pretty silly, yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so strange that the system can be gamed when it's down to the wire like that on the timing of the season.
And if it's someone that's at like 105 or something, and they're gonna win, that really sucks for them, because they could have got queued into someone else where they could have actually played out the game.
Yeah.
Transparency is always good, but I can see where this obviously starts to get into those issues of interface design problems, and Hearthstone always errs on the side of simplicity, so I don't know how they would show this in game, but hell, even if it's not in game, go to the BattleNet site and maybe look at the standings and give us a way to look at it that way.
I think you could do it pretty easily in game, though. I mean, all it would really take is when you're going into the play screen, have a button that says leaderboard, and then just click the button and it shows you like the top 100 people, and then some kind of a ranking score, like an MMR or something to say, like,
that's what
this
they
is how
literally
far
use.
apart. Yeah.
They actually use an MMR score, so.
Yeah, so why not just make that visible for the top 100 people? So then I know if I'm, say, in rank 1 and the next closest person to me is, say, 50 MMR points away, like, that's probably a few games. So at 5 minutes to midnight, I'm probably okay. Just like, that extra little bit of information I think would be really useful.
But how many times have we armchair designed on the show?
Yes, I know.
Because that sounds a whole lot to me like...
We know best, Garrett.
Oh.
Come on.
I'm just saying, that sounds a whole lot to me like deck lists, which took way longer than anyone expected to come into the game. Or the spectator mode, which took way longer than anyone expected to come into the game. Or the ability to choose what deck you would like to win from Arena or Brawl, which still doesn't exist. So... It's just it's one of those things where I'm absolutely agreeing with you. I'm just sadly also bringing in my Hearthstone history book and being like, well, doesn't have the best track record with quick iteration. So
this is true. Yeah. This is true. Sad but true.
We will have to see. So I kind of winding up the DreamHack talk. Sadly, there was also this black cloud hanging over the DreamHack, which was the toxic chat happening in Twitch that was sadly very much aimed at you. And we actually spent a good chunk of the post DreamHack episode discussing this. But we actually have you here now, and we don't need to give our opinions anymore. We can talk to you about it. So, what do you think needs to be done about the chat situation regarding Twitch and big online events?
Yeah, a lot of people have been throwing around the idea of just like getting rid of the chat, but I don't think that's necessary. Like, the chat is a really big part of like what makes Twitch.
Yeah.
And like for big tournaments, there's not much in the chat, but I don't know. I still think there should be a chat. Just kind of more moderation, being better prepared for it, and the community just as a whole not doing it. Pretty much, like you can't
Yeah, there
really
you go.
control
Yeah, how about not being
95,000 people, but
Yeah.
like they just have to not do it, and the people that and like if there's more people not doing it, though, like if it's just one person spamming or just a couple of people spamming, it's like easier. But if there's just a whole bunch of people, then you can't really control everyone, even with word filters and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's we had a lot of people in our subreddit and stuff talking about, oh yeah, we should just get rid of the chat. But the problem I have with that is, and then you're basically saying, all right, so the people spamming, racist comments, or it's not just racism, it's like anything, right? Like women, overweight
Sexism,
people, like anybody who is like not forcing apparently is just like open season, right? Anytime they're on Twitch, and like the problem that I have with the idea of just getting rid of chat is, first of all, yeah, like you said, chat's very important, I think, to the experience. But secondly, it's like, so we just get rid of it because some people are douchebags, and now we all don't have chat anymore, so we just let them like win, essentially. Like I'm not really a fan of that either. But yeah, it's a tough situation. I admire you for what you said afterwards and how you've kind of handled the whole thing, because we would like to see diversity in esports. Yeah. And it sucks when it's like kind of crapped on, right? Like that openly during a big event like that.
Yeah. I mean, it makes us all look bad. It's just shameful. So, but thanks for sharing your thoughts on it, Terrence. I'm thinking back to when I was in college. I would not have handled it as well as you have been handling it.
I think a lot of it has to do just with my kind of quiet personality, where like I kind of just avoid conflict, kind of, and I'm just super quiet, nice, and just I think that has a lot to do with how I handled it.
Which, like, if you could make something that is so terrible exponentially worse, I think that does. It's like, well, on top of that, he's such a nice guy. Like, why would you do that to this person? So, anyways, so yeah, I don't even think we got to necessarily touch on Mike Morheim's recent statement on the show. But Mike Morheim even had a follow-up comment saying that Blizzard is looking into a pilot program that Twitch is working on. And that they're apparently updating the Blizzard's esports tournament partner policy, where they expect tournaments that are having a Blizzard game to have a better checks and balance system and have stronger repercussions for organizers if they don't plan ahead for this type of stuff. And I'm glad to see that.
Yeah. See, like I'm a fan of the dank memes. I like the memes, but like I want it to be like fun and just kind of like a joyous experience doing the dank memes, and not like mean-spirited. And that's I think where I kind of, it gets disappointing. So like I don't want any of that to go away. I don't want Twitch chat to suddenly be some place where it's like church or something like that. I just want it to just be fun for everybody and not mean. That's all. I was glad that Mike Morheim actually came out and said something, and I hope Twitch does take it seriously, because they're the ones who really have the the power here to actually do something, and we can all call for it and hope for it, but it's really going to come down to them being willing to take a step in the right direction. And like you said, I think for the big tournaments, some sort of moderation that's already set up. Jocelyn, you brought it up. Twitch having a mod team that they can offer for any really big event, and then when it's the solo channel, like sure, go crazy. You guys do whatever you want, but. For those types of tournaments, I think the story that kind of stuck to me was like when you had brought up that your family was watching. You'd like your family to be like proud watching this and not horrified by what they're reading.
I don't think there's anything wrong with Blizzard demanding a certain level of professionalism when there's, this big of a tournament with this much money on the line and, with Blizzard's name all over it. Yeah. I don't think that there's anything wrong with them saying, like, look, make sure that there's within your esport event, maintain that level of professionalism. I mean, we all want esports to be taken seriously, and this is the best way for it not to be taken seriously, is what happened in that chat room.
Yeah.
How does your family feel about you being a pro gamer, by the way?
They've been really, really supportive.
Cool, man.
Like my grandfather, he's probably been the most like excited about it and just asking a bunch of questions and like trying to get into the game. It's really funny and cool.
Dude, that's
That is-
awesome.
that is-
You should do a stream where you like teach your grandfather how to play Hearthstone.
Oh my god, that would get so many
That would be
viewers.
phenomenal.
That'd be hilarious.
That'd
I
be
had
so
my mom
awesome.
on the stream one time, and she was so confused. She's like, "What's going on right now?" Oh, they all make funny little sounds, though. That's cool. I was like, "All right, mom."
Thanks, Mom. Way to mom it up, Mom.
Yeah, my mom tried to play once because we have a listener that I told her about who is 4, and I was like, yeah, and Kelsey listens and she loves to play, and my mom's like, well, if a 4-year-old can do it, and then she just epically failed. It was hilarious.
It's hilarious. I've been very thankful that certain poker pros have started playing Hearthstone because now my dad knows what it is.
Yeah.
So.
By the
thank
way,
you.
yeah. Did you see Elke was at DreamHack, and I think he went 0-3. Terrence.
I saw him. I didn't know how he
I didn't
did
see him
that.
actually playing any matches. though. I was like, how is he 0-3? I don't think he ever actually sat down to play a match. I think he might have just showed up and just not played or something. But I was hoping. I was like, yeah, I could say I did better than Elke. So
He did do really well at a tournament recently, though.
Yeah.
I don't remember
won.
which one it was.
yeah,
But
he's won a few actual tournaments recently. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe my dad knowing what Hearthstone is a direct result of Daniel Negreanu being a fan of Hearthstone.
yeah, he's
So-
really into it.
So Daniel Negreanu, if you're listening, which you tweeted at us last week, so I think you do. Thank you. It's made explaining what I do to my parents so much easier.
He actually talked about it in the World Series of Poker, like when they actually aired it. There was a little clip of him like talking about how he's playing Tempo Mage with another guy at like one of the feature tables.
Awesome.
Oh man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Totally freaking awesome. That's
You
so
play poker, Terrence?
Nah.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
So what other card games were you playing before Hearthstone came out?
So the first one I started with was Pokemon. I'm not actually sure what age I was. I want to say around 7, and I would pretty much have my dad drive me to the Pokemon Center in Rockefeller Plaza every weekend, and he'd just complain about. As soon as I got back, he was like, "Oh, that's really cool that you like did this well in like a card game tournament." So all those times I would just wait for hours while you played tournaments was worth it. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it was Pokemon, and then Yu-Gi-Oh until my first year of high school. I kind of took a break, and then Yu-Gi-Oh again until I got my Hearthstone beta key, and then I just haven't. I played one more major Yu-Gi-Oh tournament after that, and I think I just made day 2, and that was it.
Oh, that's
This has
that.
been Hearthstone since.
I love.
Yeah.
I love hearing Pokemon. I never got into the tournament scene because I was really young when I started playing the Pokemon card game. Like
Yeah.
this was the when it first came out in the U.S. That's when I started playing. But for me, when I walk into a bookstore, I associate that smell with Pokemon like card games because every Saturday I would go down to the local Books A Million and play with the local kids. It's hilarious. I'm not even joking. We went into a Barnes and Noble this weekend. I'm like, smells like Pokemon. Yep. So, well, that's awesome, man. I thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us. Now, you are actually going to hang out for the rest of the episode, though, so you'll be listening to crazy game stories from our listeners as well as some emails. But before we get into those, let's thank our patrons who are supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. This episode, let's thank Shane H., Jason P., Gareth, Bob T. Skull, Ian K., Jennifer L., Nolpalzin T., and Arvid N. Hope I didn't butcher anyone's names too hard. Again, my last name is Weinzerl. I know your pain. So thank you again for
I would
supporting
actually
the
like
show.
you to try to pronounce Arvid's last name. That would be
Yeah.
entertaining to me. But
Nordenskjold is
There
my
you go.
best
Good job, buddy.
attempt.
Actually, I think that was pretty good.
That's my best attempt at Mr. Arvid there. So hopefully I did you proud. Anyways, let's take a crazy game story.
Is the whole world gone crazy?
You're in trouble now.
You got it!
You can send your crazy game stories to tacpodcast@gmail.com. Our story today comes to us from Forlorderon. You need an exclamation point on the end of your name, sir. Dear malicious pseudo-avians, I was playing a mid-range N'Zoth Paladin versus a N'Zoth Priest. I don't recall the game except for the most important RNGesus damned parts that made me lose. He thought stole Tyrion. Played N'Zoth the turn after I did, gets another Tyrion. I equality into dudes killing a Tyrion. He plays a second N'Zoth, which he also got from Thoughtsteal. 2 more Tyrions. This is 4 so far, and I'd saved my other equality. But shifting shades also happen when you play N'Zoth. And as fate had it out for me, he then played another Tyrion, for a total of 5, before I realized his entire hand could very well be copies of the indestructible swordsman. So I executed my last power play as sadness filled my body. By the holy light, into concede. Did I mention I never even got to draw Fordring? It doesn't matter. However, because if I had, my opponent would have simply entombed it into his impressive hoard.
Yeah, actually, when you're playing N'Zoth Paladin against N'Zoth Priest, you have almost a 0% chance to win that game. It is such a one-sided matchup. It's terrible. I've done this matchup many times. It's not good. So you don't have to always have 5 Tyrions played against you to do that, but it is a pretty bad matchup.
It just made me laugh so much. The part where he's like, I never even draw my own Tyrion, or drew my own Tyrion. I was just like, oh, dude, I feel for you. It feels like my whole entire Hearthstone month of May.
Yeah, there's just some games you aren't meant to win.
Yeah.
And it's just a bad matchup with Entomb alone.
Yeah, exactly. Your key cards that you need to bring back with N'Zoth, they just take them, and they get to bring them back with N'Zoth. So, sorry.
Yep. You can't
By the
say
way,
sorry
give a little
anymore.
noise there, Garrett. I'm waiting for you to make little noises like that every episode now. Did you see the Tetris? with
I
Garrett?
saw it.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
And to explain to Terrence and our listeners out there who may not know what the hell we're talking about, I made a strange noise on one of the previous episodes, and one of you fine listeners out there went and turned it into an auto-tuned version of the Tetris song. So thank you for that.
It's amazing.
We
should link it in the show notes for everybody.
I unintelligently started watching it while drinking my morning coffee, and coffee may have left my nose. So thanks for that, guys. I really appreciate it. But yeah, for Lordaeron, this is one of the most epic losses we've received to the inbox. So, I mean, at this point, when it gets this far, can you even be mad? I would have almost been happy I just got to witness this absurdity. So, hope. It sounds like it left with a smile on your face. So thank you for sharing that story with us. Let's wrap the show up with some emails.
Hello.
Hello, it's me.
Hello.
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh.
Hello, brother.
You can send your emails to the same place, tacpodcast@gmail.com. Our first one today comes to us from Elizabeth. Elizabeth writes, Hey, Feathered Fowl. I was wondering if you could talk about what you think about Tempo Storm and the meta snapshot and how you think to best use the information. Sometimes I feel like the snapshot can be spot on and other times it's way off. I know it depends on what rank you are in the ladder, but if it's limited by rank ranges, then how do you know how useful it is? I was also wondering how you think it influences the meta. Any advice would be appreciated. I mean, my gut reaction is that I think it influences the meta for an average player quite a bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Like, it's the number one go-to place, I think, for a lot of people when they're trying to figure out what to play in a new month, specifically at the start of the month, when a lot of people are kind of doing that crazy fast legend push. So I think it's really important to the meta.
Mm-hmm.
To me, yeah, it's the number one influence, I think. But every time there's like a big event, that also really influences the meta. Right after DreamHack, a lot of people were playing, Chalky's version of Dex. You started to see more people playing his version of Zoo. You saw a lot of people playing his version of N'Zoth Paladin and things like that. But it to me, when I look at the Tempo Storm meta snapshot, what I do is I just kind of browse it, but I just kind of see if there's a deck I didn't expect to be there, and I still go about my business playing whatever deck I think is the best for me. So I wouldn't recommend everybody just go there, pick the top deck, and then say, cool, that's my deck now. Because those ranges too, like the tier 1, tier 2, like a lot of times tier 2 is going to still win if you're playing in the deck properly, a couple percentage points less than the tier 1 decks. It's not this massive difference where all these decks in tier 1 are like 70% win rates and the ones in tier 2 are 60%. It's small differences. And sometimes you can actually do better with the deck that most people aren't playing against because they're not teching against that particular deck. So, like, I've done really well with decks that are considered like tier 2, tier 3 in the Tempo Storm snapshot, just because they're not the deck everyone's worried about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How much do you look at things like that, Terrence, as like a pro player? Do you concern yourself with things like that for things like tournaments, or do you think that's mostly a ladder tool?
I don't really rely on it at all, really. I watch a lot of streams and stuff. Like, if there's something that's doing really well, it'll be talked about on Twitter or something. So, like, if there's something, like, new and crazy, I'll, like, check it out. And sometimes I'll go to the meta snapshot just when I delete a lot of my decks when I'm playing tournaments. So sometimes I'm just like, wow, what's that last card? Or is there anything I'm forgetting? So I check it out sometimes for the decks just to make sure I'm not forgetting anything important. But for the most part, I kind of just start with the baseline and kind of tweak as I go compared to what I'm seeing. Like, I don't really have to rely that much on, I'm not going to say that I don't net deck and that my decks aren't, 1 or 2 cards off of what the standard decks are. But I pretty much go through it myself for the most part. And I'll just copy something that's doing well and then kind of tweak it as I go.
Yeah,
I don't think that is strange. When we talk about the popular meta decks a lot here on the show, and especially after a tournament, we may pick out a deck to talk about on the show. Like, it could be Zulok, for example, where we've talked about it for years now, but there's 1 or 2 cards different that just make it that much more interesting to where it's worth mentioning. So I think it's something you see in the tournament circuit a lot.
There was somewhat of a debate as to whether to play Leroy or Doomguard right now.
Yeah.
So, the Leroy version's still really good. I think it's a little bit better in tournaments than in ladder, where you're just targeting specific decks, and the decks, if you're targeting something that Leroy does better, again, and you play Leroy. But the Doomguard version just seems a lot more flexible for ladder and stuff.
Sure.
So that comes to another point where it's some of the meta snapshot decks aren't just ladder. Some of them are from tournaments and stuff like that, and people just kind of copy tournament decks and I should do well with this on ladder, but there's some specific tweaks for the differences.
What are you what decks are you playing right now?
Right now, last night I climbed from 2,000 or 1,500 to 230 with Silent Storm's Cthulhu Druid. Him and I think 2 other people got top 10 with it yesterday. So I tried that out for a bit. It's been doing really well.
Yeah, I actually brought Cthulhu Druid the DreamHack thinking it was going to be really strong, and it wasn't actually that good. But I do believe in that deck. I think it's got some amazing tools. Playing a 4/10 is always pretty good. So,
but it doesn't feel that strong, and I'm not actually sure why I'm winning with it. But I'm winning, so I'm gonna keep playing it until it starts losing. So yeah.
Sometimes you just do that really good thing where you draw Wild Growth and then you draw Mire Keeper and then you just have way bigger cards.
Sometimes you draw Wild Growth and Innovate and you win the game.
Yep.
Absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Shall I take the next one, Garrett?
You shall, Dills.
All right, this one comes from Melfi, who says, oh, God damn it. Dear Apoplectic Poultry, I did it!
Yes!
All right. This email was inspired by the multi-class card question during the patron hangout. One of the coolest MMO WoW experiences is the long grind to obtain legendary items. Hearthstone could do this by creating a really good weapon card usable by all weapon classes. The first and most obvious to me would be Frostmourne. What would be a suitable way to earn such a cool weapon? Would the screams of all the non-weapon classes be too much for Blizzard to ever do this? Well, first of all, I don't think we'll ever see anything like this. Let's just go ahead and preface my answer with Blizzard they're not going to do this.
I would also argue we already have Doomhammer in the game, which is an extremely famous, soon-to-be legendary weapon in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, it's going to be, what do they call it in artifact weapon or something like that?
Artifact weapons, yeah.
I don't think we're ever going to see cards that aren't minions be neutral ever. I really don't think so. They've set this precedent. I think they're going to stick with it. It's a cool idea and a thought, and we've talked about like legendary spells and multi-card or multi-class cards and all that kind of stuff. But if we're being real, nah, Blizzard's not going to do it.
Well, the thing is, in Warcraft, they're very specific, like so-and-so class can use such and such a weapon or wear such and such an armor type, and we don't have that in Hearthstone. So it would be really difficult to kind of distinguish who could use it, who couldn't use it. And then it's like, well, does it make any sense for like a mage to use a sword or a priest to use a sword? Like, not really. So if it was neutral, it would kind of have to be used by everyone, and then the weapons don't really make sense.
They should just put a bunch of weapons in, and then hunters can use all of them. And then
every weapon is a hunter weapon.
Self-referential joke. Yeah.
Yep. And yes, chat room, I know there are other famous weapons other than Doomhammer. That was just the first thing that popped into my head. You are correct. Gorehowl, Ashbringer. I would argue Twilight Hammer.
Sure.
Cho'Gall swings it around.
You know, I would like to see weapons be added to more classes. I do think that there is something for a mage having a staff.
Yes, we're definitely missing staffs.
There's something there, right?
Yeah.
That would be cool. That would really be cool. But we're in a weird place with weapons right now in Hearthstone, I think. Like, there's a couple that really kind of dominate, and then the one class that should have lots of weapons is now only running a single deadly poison. And I don't know, it's just super weird to me what's going on with weapons these days. Like, Rogue running no weapons and one weapon buffing card being the norm. That is so crazy. I don't understand how we got to this place, but here we are.
It's just not that strong without Blade Flurry anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Just need some other like weapon support cards for Rogue again or something like that.
Well, what they need is a weapon that's not a 5-mana 3/4 weapon, you know, because that's like the strongest actual weapon card that they have. And if they could have something along the lines of Fiery Wind Axe, then they would play it, you know. But
that's Deadly Poison is almost basically Fiery Wind Axe. Like, that's pretty much what its use is, but it comes down on 3 instead of 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem, I guess.
Yeah.
We can't really make it 0 mana.
No.
Definitely can't do that.
That would be broken.
I mean, when we talked about the changes to the basic and classic cards, and we talked specifically about the Blade Flurry change, I mean, Dills, you and I were kind of in the camp of, well, this was probably changed so they can design cool / strong rogue weapons in the future, that it seems like that card specifically might be hamstringing them a bit. Where do you fall in that camp, Terrence? Do you think, obviously we didn't really get anything cool and new in the weapon category for Rogue with Old Gods, but do you think maybe that's coming down the road?
I definitely think that there'll be like some kind of weapon thing again, because Rogue up until this point was like always about weapons. I think a big part of that was Blade Flurry though. Like,
right.
That's definitely a huge part. But I think Rogue right now, I think Conceal probably should go eventually. It's just so uninteractive. Like, as much as I love like Leroy Coldblood Conceal, losing to it sucks.
Yeah, playing an Auctioneer and then putting a bunch of Coldbloods on it and then concealing it just because you know they can't kill it is just kind of stupid.
Yeah, there's just some classes that can't interact with it at all.
Yeah. No, it's true. If everybody had something like a Quality Consecrate, then it'd be fine. But in a world where only one class gets to have that, and you know, if you think about when you can do that, it's like, well, if I'm a mage, I guess I better have Flame Strike, and then I'm Flame Striking like one card. It doesn't feel good. Like, there's just so many bad situations that you get put in because of it. That I'm with you. They could even maybe make it cost like 2 mana, because then it wouldn't even be played anymore. But at 1 mana, it's way too good. It was 0 mana at one point, by the way. That card.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah,
I
that was
remember.
crazy.
Heck, I'd believe me, I'd be complaining about Miracle Rogue a lot more right now if I didn't feel like I spent my first year on this podcast doing just that. So,
Yeah. Now I just play it instead. I'm like,
Yep.
you know what? As long as this is a thing, I'm just going to do it instead of being the guy who complains about it. I'll play the broken deck until it goes away.
yeah, fair enough. I also, I don't think it's nearly as bad now because there is a good amount of deck diversity. Back when Miracle
Yeah.
Rogue was the hot jam, it felt like all I was seeing was Face Hunter and Miracle Rogue.
Yeah, there was a time where it was like, well, am I playing Miracle Rogue with Sinister Strike or without? And that's that's the difference. But now, the one thing though is there are decks that punish it, right? The weapon warrior, the pirate weapon warrior that just hits your face before you can ever set up, that just destroys Miracle Rogue every single time. So if you are hating Miracle Rogue, just hit them in the face with weapons a bunch of times before they ever play an auctioneer. It's fine.
Yeah, just all the aggro decks destroy Miracle Rogue.
Yeah.
Like that's why the aggro rogue that Backspace popularized, that was like my worst nightmare back when I played nothing but Miracle Rogue.
Yeah.
I still like taking an Azoth Paladin to battle against a Miracle Rogue.
Yeah, it'll get there.
Gotta draw the quality pyro. And
Yeah. You need the ways to deal with the concealed stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah, you can do it.
Yep. But it's not like I'm really saving it for any other targets. So if I do draw it, it's like, yep, you're going to stick around until I see an auctioneer. Enjoy. But Joss, would you like to take us home with the third email?
Absolutely. This one comes to us from Andrew. Says, "Hi, Angry Chickens. Sorry if I've already talked about this before, but I just started listening a few weeks ago. I finished up crafting most of the cards I need for decks and started crafting golden cards. I found that it's expensive and takes a lot of time and dust to craft golden cards. I think it'd be better if I could just buy a pack of all goldens for an adjusted price. Do you think it would be better if you could buy a pack with all golden cards in it? I think it would be great if they priced it well. I was thinking $5 to $7 would be fair. Keep up the good work. P.S. Bonus question. Since you're all Heroes fans, with Medivh about to enter the Nexus, do you think it would be good if there was a Medivh bundle? You could buy him in Heroes and get his skin in Hearthstone as a bundle bonus. I would like it since he's the only skin I don't have." I thought this was a really good Jocelyn email because, like, totally the 1% email. Like, I, for one, would love to be able to just buy packs that had a random 5 bonus cards in them. I don't know about, or golden cards in them. I don't know about $5 to $7, but yeah, it would definitely have to be more expensive because of the dust.
I feel like I'd have to do some really hardcore math to answer this intelligently because you're then you're assigning a dollar value to guaranteed higher dust content.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
I think maybe just like stop worrying so much about golden cards. That's probably the best answer I can give you.
When you have a full golden deck, you get the golden coin, Dills. So
yeah, that
like,
seems amazing. But, you know, like I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that I will slowly over time earn a large amount of golden cards, but I'm not too worried about it. I just want to make sure I have all the cards, period. That's my main concern.
I think Andrew already does from the sounds of it. He has everything he needs.
Yeah.
So he just wants all the shinies.
Well, cool for you, man. Clearly, money's not an issue. Just keep buying packs and crafting goldens.
Yeah.
I wish there was a better way. Like when I played Yu-Gi-Oh, I just get max rarity everything for at least my favorite deck, and then like in Hearthstone, you don't really have the resale value. So, like playing Hearthstone just by itself is pretty affordable with the normal cards, but like the golden cards are pretty expensive to get. And then there's no resale value on top of that. So I think that's kind of discouraging. And I don't really like Arena. I'm waiting for like a tournament mode or something like that, where you could get gold from that, and then I'd grind that all day and get as many gold cards. But I don't think buying golden cards is efficient at all once you have everything.
So if you could buy a pack for, 2 or 3 times the amount of a normal pack, but you were guaranteed to get 5 golden cards, would you do it?
I probably would, yeah.
Nice. Me too.
I mean, I think the only time I crafted a golden anything was the Golden Leroy when we hit Legends, and everyone was like, make Golden Leroy. But I'll never do it again because it completely destroyed my dust. Like that, I can't craft anything anymore now. So the good news is I have all the cards, so I'm fine, but a situation will come up at one point where I'll need something, and I won't have it.
My plan right now is to get all the decks I use at DreamHack full golden.
What? Nice.
That would
Do you
be-
find that it
Yeah,
gives
you had a lot of legendaries in that. And just
Yeah.
So
Like right now, in most of my decks, I try and just get all the commons and rares golden, and then kind of leave the epics and legendaries for now. But for at least the decks I use at DreamHack, I'll probably just get them golden fully.
yeah, see, I think if I were to make some sort of plan, it would be like one deck that's all golden. That's like my iconic deck that I play a lot, something like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I know some people like Crip has been trying to get like the full golden set and spent a bunch of money, and he's still not there. So
Oh man.
it's a lot of money to get all goldens, man. You got to be Rainad essentially, right? And like all your
Yeah.
money comes from Hearthstone.
I feel like that's how it should be. Personally, that's just where my head's at. I'm like, golden should be this super rare thing that's just
Sure.
kind of cool if you happen to crack one. Like,
Yeah, when you play against gold, like when I used to see things like Golden Boom, I'm like, oh my god, this guy's got Golden Boom! Wow, it's a moment that's actually cool. So yeah, they should be hard to get.
I was this close to crafting Golden Boom, and then they announced Standard, and I was like, well.
Thank
Right
God.
before Standard, I got a golden Karen. I was like, I'm never gonna use this. Let's make this a golden Doctor Boom. And then the rotation got announced. I was like, well, I just wasted a bunch of dust. I'd rather have a gold Karen
Yeah.
now.
Suddenly Karen's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so rare that I kind of like that. It's incredibly rare that I come across an all gold deck, because I get really excited when I see. I'm like, oh man, somebody likes themselves some Hearthstone.
Yeah, maybe that's what I should make an all gold milkshake deck. That's what I'll do.
Yep.
It needs to be iconic. Like your Leroy, that's iconic
Yeah.
because that's you got to legendary. Yay! You'll remember why you have a golden Leroy. So
Sure.
golden
Well,
milkshake.
I remember
you're
why,
totally
'cause I
known
hit
for
people's
milkshake.
face with Leroy over
Yeah.
and over and over again on that run.
Yep. Well, awesome. Thank you for that email, Andrew, and good luck in your very long quest to get all the goldens you could ever
You got
want.
this, Andrew. I believe, buddy.
We believe in you, Andrew. May your pack opening luck be extreme. So that is going to do it for this episode of The Angry Chicken. Thanks again to our patrons who are supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. If you like the show, that is the best way to support it. Thank you to those of you who are also leaving us reviews in the iTunes store. Thank you to Rendon Martin, Lance Blizz Gamer. Thank you to Corondin, who just yelled at us, "Birds are dinosaurs!" That was his
All
review.
right.
Well
So,
done.
Thank you for that. Made me laugh.
I
And
agree.
finally, making music for him. Thank you guys for your 5-star reviews. The Angry Chicken can be found on amove.tv and youtube.com/amovetv. Big fat thanks to our Patreon producers, Declan H., Peter Williams, and King Louie. Get our swag over at bit.ly/amove store, and you can follow the show on Twitter at TAC Podcast. Terrence, you're our guest. Where can folks keep up to date with you?
On Twitter, it's just at GFE_TerrenceM. And on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/TERR Miller. So Terror Miller. Yeah.
Awesome. And folks should also check out Terrence's team, Gale Force Esports, at galeforceesports.com. Dills.
Their name is popping up everywhere these days, man.
I saw it in the Overwatch tournament
Yeah,
over
the
the
Overwatch
weekend.
tournament, they were doing really well. Yeah.
I
They're
watched.
doing really well in Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm. Like everyone on the team's just doing really well right now.
When I was at
very
DreamHack, I
cool.
felt like I was just at Gale Force Con because I went down to watch Heroes, and I'm watching Gale Force, play Heroes, and then I'm like, oh, let me meander on up to the Hearthstone thing. Who's this guy? Who's Terrence? I'm not familiar with him, but he's got a Gale Force jersey and he's kicking trash. So,
Yeah, good stuff.
your team's doing well.
I'm just
so.
glad to see. I'm glad to see teams that aren't like super well known becoming well known. It's good. It's really good for the whole scene to have more than just Liquid and Cloud9 right everywhere. So good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, Dills, where can folks find you?
You can check me out on Twitter. I'm at Willie Dills. The Twitch stream is twitch.tv/WillieDillsSF. We'll be streaming a lot this next coming week, except when there's Warriors games, because they're in the finals, man. We did it. Although sometimes after the game, you might find me drunk and happy if they've won streaming. Also, check out The Instance, World of Warcraft podcast, and Stormcast, which records later tonight.
You can find me currently being depressed about the Lightning.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, man.
Sorry.
Feels bad, man.
Does feel bad. But hey, Florida did better than Canada, so
Ouch.
That's something. That's something. Sorry, Jocelyn, but
Suck it, Josh.
I will never
Yeah.
never stop finding fun in the irony that is Florida being better at an ice sport than Canada.
Yeah. I did. Yeah.
So we're
There's literally nothing I can say about that right now.
well, anyway, where can folks find you, Joss?
Right here on A Move TV every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We do The Gamers In, which is my general gaming podcast. You can follow me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays, and basically everything that I do can be found over at jossplays.com.
Rawsome. You can actually find me on Twitter at Garrett Art, all of the podcasts at amove.tv. I would like to promote Jocelyn and I spoiling Game of Thrones on Embrace of Spoilers and the Overwatch podcast, Overwatchers, with Patrick, Chanman, and me. Talking about Overwatch, we'll be recording a new episode actually later tonight. So if you haven't subscribed, go over and do so. That's going to do it for this episode of The Angry Chicken. And until next time, job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Yes.